Usually when we talk about like starting a new business, there's this expectation of a really grueling uphill battle with technology.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you have this great idea for a product. Maybe you've even prototyped it, but then you hit a wall of just absolute jargon.
Right, the tech wall.
Yeah, exactly. Servers, hosting environments, security protocols, API bridges. It can honestly feel like you need a master's degree in computer science just to, sell a t-shirt on the internet.
It's incredibly intimidating for a lot of people.
Mm.
And historically, that technical barrier to entry wasn't just a learning curve. It was a massive financial wall that kept most independent creators completely locked out of the market.
But then you look at modern digital commerce, and
Right.
suddenly that wall is it's gone.
Yeah, completely gone.
So today we're cutting through the info overload of a really comprehensive guide we have. It's titled Shopify e-commerce website, what you get, what it costs. And our mission right now is simple. We want to give you, the listener, an absolute shortcut to understanding exactly what it takes to build a modern store today.
Because the landscape has completely transformed.
It really has. So whether you're tinkering with a side hustle, prepping to launch a venture-backed business, or you're just insanely curious about how digital retail actually works under the hood, this deep dive is going to map it all out for you.
Yeah, the fundamental rules of how we build and scale on the internet have shifted in a way that just directly empowers the individual now.
Exactly. But before we can even talk about building a store, we really have to understand the foundation we are building on, right? Like,
Yeah.
why are we talking about a hosted platform like Shopify instead of just building a website from scratch?
That's the core question.
Because I like to think about it this way. Building a site the traditional open source way is basically like buying an empty dirt lot. You own the dirt, sure, but you have to pour the concrete yourself.
You're doing everything.
Right. You have to lay your own plumbing, run the electrical wires, hire a security guard to walk the perimeter, and figure out how to handle the trash collection. Whereas a hosted platform, it's much more like renting a fully functioning storefront in a really high-end mall.
That's a great way to look at it.
The utilities are handled, the security is already watching the doors, and you just have to focus on setting up your window display. But I have to ask, with platforms like this out there, is the traditional way of building a website totally obsolete now? Or are we just trading control for convenience?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the traditional way isn't obsolete, but it has become highly, highly specialized. For the vast majority of merchants, unless you are a massive media conglomerate, the traditional tech stack is actually a liability.
Wow, a liability.
Yeah, let's look at what that mall storefront bundle actually includes out of the box, because it solves problems most new builders don't even know they have yet. If you build traditionally, you're managing this precarious stack of separate services. First, you buy a web host. Then, you pay for metered bandwidth. You have to buy an SSL certificate, install it, and crucially, you have to remember to renew it yourself.
Which, if you forget to renew that SSL, your site suddenly flashes that terrifying red "not secure" warning to every single customer who tries to visit.
Oh, yeah.
Which is basically a neon sign telling people not to give you their credit card.
Exactly. It's an instant conversion killer. But with this hosted platform, all of that infrastructure is folded into one single subscription. You get hosting with unlimited bandwidth. Think about the mechanics of that for a second. If your product goes viral on social media overnight...
Which is the dream, right?
Right. But in a traditional setup, you're penalized with a massive server bill the next morning because you exceeded your data cap.
Or worse, the server just crashes under the weight of the traffic, and you miss out on thousands of dollars in sales while you're scrambling to call your hosting provider on the phone.
Right, which happens all the time. But here you also get free auto-renewing SSL certificates, so that security warning never happens. And you get a Cloudflare-backed content delivery network, or CDN.
Wait, let's actually pause on the CDN for a second, because that's one of those tech acronyms people just throw around.
Yeah.
How does that actually work mechanically to help the person listening to this right now?
It's a great question. A CDN is essentially a global web of servers. Without it, if your main server is in Ohio, and a customer in Sydney, Australia clicks your link, that data has to travel physically under the ocean.
Which obviously takes a second.
It takes time, yeah. A CDN takes copies of your website's files, so like your images, your code, and it caches them on servers all over the world.
Okay.
So when that person in Sydney clicks, they aren't pulling data from Ohio. They're pulling it from a node right down the street in Australia. That is how the site loads lightning fast, no matter where your customer actually is.
Which is massive for keeping people on the page.
Yeah.
And the guide also mentions Level 1 PCI DSS payment security. Okay, let's unpack this. PCI DSS, that's the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. It's like the highest tier of security for handling credit card data, right?
Yes. And understanding the why here is super crucial. In a traditional dirt lot build, achieving and auditing that level of security is your job.
Jeez.
You have to prove to the payment networks that your database cannot be hacked. It is incredibly complex, the audits are grueling, and the financial liability if you suffer a data breach is literally devastating.
Nobody wants that.
No. Here, that liability and complexity are completely outsourced to the platform. They hold the certification. And they boast a 99.9% uptime across all major services to back it up.
So what this means for you, if you're listening to this and feeling totally intimidated because you've never written a line of code in your life, is that you don't have to be an IT manager. The infrastructure work, which is the exact technical quicksand that usually quietly sinks first-time builders because it's so overwhelming and invisible, is entirely removed.
Yeah.
The plumbing is done.
Precisely. You don't provision servers. You don't patch operating systems to fix security vulnerabilities. You just focus entirely on the business itself.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because now that the plumbing is handled and the walls are up, how do you design the actual space to get people to click buy? We're moving from back-end tech to storefront strategy now.
Right. The fun part.
Yeah. And I think we all obsess over a beautiful homepage, right? You want that stunning front door with the massive lifestyle photo. But is the homepage actually overrated compared to the product page, where the sale is really won or lost?
That is the critical distinction you have to make. A website that sells is not just one page. It is a meticulously designed system of pages, and they each have a very specific psychological job.
Right.
Your homepage is just the front door. It sets the brand promise and offers a clear, uncluttered path to start shopping. But the product page, that is the absolute battleground.
Because if they have even a split second of doubt, like, will this shirt shrink in the wash, or can I return this if I hate the color, they are going to click the back button.
Instantly.
So the product page really has to be an objection-killing machine.
Exactly. The product page requires high-resolution images, really clear pricing, easy-to-select variants, a compelling description, social proof through reviews, and an add-to-cart button that proactively answers those exact customer objections you just mentioned.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the anatomy of the store goes beyond just those two pages, right? You need collection pages to group products logically so buyers can filter without getting frustrated. You need a cart page that clearly summarizes the purchase so there are no surprises with pricing. And you need essential pages for trust.
Right. The guide talks about an about page, contact details, and mandatory policies for things like refunds, privacy, and shipping. And those policy pages aren't just legal formalities, are they?
Not at all. I mean, mechanically, they are required by payment providers like Google Pay or Apple Pay to even use their services, but psychologically, they provide the subtle trust signals that reassure a first-time buyer that you are a real legitimate business, not some scam site that's going to disappear tomorrow.
Yeah, nobody wants to get scammed.
Right. The overarching design philosophy you have to adopt is all about the customer's journey. The shortest path between the homepage and the thank you for your order page wins. Design isn't just decoration here, it is pure conversion optimization.
Which brings us directly to the checkout experience. Because you can have the most beautiful, objection-killing product page in the entire world, but if the checkout process is clunky, they abandon the cart. We've all done it.
We absolutely have, and friction at checkout is fatal to an e-commerce business. The source material actually cites a very specific study commissioned by Shopify from a Big 3 global management consulting firm.
Yeah.
They found that using Shop Pay, which is the platform's accelerated checkout, can lift conversion by as much as 50% compared to a standard guest checkout.
Okay, hold on. A 50% lift. I mean, even if we treat that as vendor commissioned data, that number is staggering. How is that mechanically possible just from changing the checkout flow?
Think about the cognitive load on a mobile device, right? You're holding your phone with one hand, maybe you're walking or you're on a crowded train. Every time you have to tap a tiny box to enter your zip code or physically dig your credit card out of your wallet to type in 16 digits.
It's the worst.
It is. That is friction. It gives your brain time to second-guess the purchase. ShopPay eliminates the form entirely. It securely saves the user's information across millions of stores, allowing them to check out with a single tap using biometric authentication like Face ID.
So you're just removing the hurdles. Getting out of the customer's way is actually the best design choice you can make.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights why the platform's checkout system is such a core part of its value proposition. It securely handles address parsing, shipping logic, real-time tax calculation, and payment in one seamless flow, totally removing the friction right at the precise moment it usually costs you sales.
Okay, let's unpack this next part because we know what pages we need to build and we know the heavy tech is handled. But who is actually going to do the manual labor to put this all together, and what is the real invoice going to look like? I'm going to play the skeptic here for a minute. Can a DIY do-it-yourself site actually look professional today, or are we just kidding ourselves to avoid paying a high-end freelancer?
It's a completely fair question, and the answer really lies in understanding the three distinct build paths available. You have DIY, hiring a freelancer, or commissioning a full agency. Let's look at the hard numbers.
Let's do it.
For a DIY build, your out-of-pocket labor cost is exactly $0, and the true year-one cost is astonishingly low. It's about $357.
Wait. $357 for the entire first year. Walk me through the mechanics of that math.
Sure. You start with the basic plan, which is billed annually at $29 a month. You add a custom domain for about $9. And you use a free theme. The guide specifically highlights the 2025 Horizon theme, which is a modern, highly flexible default built with intuitive theme blocks.
Okay.
Plus, there is a trial structure designed to ease you in. It's 3 days completely free, and then just $1 a month for the first 3 months to give you some runway.
Think about that for a second. $357. I mean, a decade ago, that wouldn't even buy you an hour of a developer's time just to sit in a coffee shop and discuss building a site.
Not even close.
Now, that same amount secures your global infrastructure, your security, and your design framework for an entire year. But the guide also warns about a trap here, right? The $5 starter plan.
Yes, the starter plan is a trap if your goal is to build a full standalone website. It is specifically designed for selling through links in social media bios or messaging apps.
Gotcha.
It is a lightweight test bed, not a full online store architecture. If you want a real indexed website with a cart and collections, the $29 a month basic plan is your true floor.
So $357 gets you in the door looking totally professional with zero code required.
Yeah.
But what if you want more polish, or you have a really complex catalog, but you don't have a massive corporate budget?
That is where the second path comes in, which is the freelancer. This runs anywhere from $500 to around $10,000. It is the absolute sweet spot when you want a highly customized aesthetic, or you simply want someone else to put in the hours, but you don't need the heavy strategic overhead of a full marketing firm.
And then there's the third path, the agency. The guide says $3,000 all the way up to $75,000 or more. That sounds incredibly steep.
Mm-hmm.
Who is actually taking that path?
Agencies act as strategic partners for really complex brand-critical builds or massive data migrations from legacy platforms, but the real value they bring at that level is speed and scale.
Speed, really?
Yeah. The source material shares a very telling quote from Steve Duran, who is the Associate Director of Global Commerce at Carrier, a massive enterprise brand.
Right.
He noted that historically, it is very expensive to build the types of complex e-commerce experiences they need. But with Shopify, it takes a matter of weeks. So what used to take massive enterprise development teams months of coding and hundreds of thousands of dollars is now condensed into a fraction of the time.
Okay, so speed is a major factor at the enterprise level. But let's bring it back down to you, the learner. Looking at that 357 DIY path, the marketing claim Shopify makes that you see everywhere is, you could be selling by tomorrow. Now, I'm all for enthusiasm, but that honestly sounds a bit like snake oil. If I'm working on this solo, in the evenings after my day job, what does a realistic, non-exhausting sprint actually look like?
You're right to be skeptical. I mean, selling by tomorrow is a bold marketing claim. Is it technically possible? Yes. But realistically, a focused DIY build for a solo entrepreneur who wants to do it right is more of a 5-day sprint.
Let's talk about the phases of that sprint rather than just treating it like a checklist. What is the actual experience of getting this off the ground?
Well, the first phase, let's call it day one, is purely visual and aesthetic. It's the fun part. You create the account, start the trial, and pick that free Horizon theme.
So it's just playing with the look and feel.
Exactly. This is where you realize you don't need to fear code. You are using a visual editor to arrange building blocks. So setting your brand colors, dropping in fonts, uploading a logo, and you aren't totally alone here either. Shopify has an AI assistant called Sidekick that can actually help draft your initial copy and assemble a starter layout for you.
So the first 24 hours are basically just making the store look like a real brand. But a pretty store doesn't matter if you don't have anything to sell.
Right. Which brings us to the catalog phase on day 2. This is all about products and collections. You are loading your products with photos, setting prices, defining variants like size and color, and writing descriptions.
And the strategy here.
The key strategic advice the guide offers here is curation. You really want to favor a handful of strong, well-documented listings over a thin, sprawling catalog of hundreds of items.
Make the few things you sell look irresistible rather than overwhelming the buyer.
Got it.
But then we hit the mechanical phase. How brutal is the learning curve when we get into the actual plumbing of the business on day 3?
Day 3 is undeniably the grind. It gets into the pure mechanics. You turn on Shopify payments so you can accept credit cards and activate Shop Pay. But then you have to set up your shipping zones, define your shipping rates by weight or price, and configure the tax settings for the regions you are legally required to collect in.
Sounds tedious.
It's not glamorous, but it is the actual engine of the business.
Right. And then day 4 shifts into what we can call the trust phase.
Yes. Day 4 is all about identity and legal protection. You write and publish those mandatory policies we talked about earlier, like refunds, privacy, terms of service. Then you finally connect your custom domain name.
The domain.
Yeah, that is the psychological switch. That is what turns a generic demo link into a real standalone business in the eyes of the consumer.
Which leaves day 5 as launch day. But the guide actually details a mandatory pre-launch QA checklist to go alongside this, right? It's not just hit publish and pray.
No, absolutely not. Day 5 involves a rigorous safety net before the password page comes down. You must ensure your custom domain actually resolves correctly, meaning when someone types it in, it doesn't hit a dead end.
Right.
You need to verify that those trust policies are visibly linked in your footer. And critically, you have to do the SEO basics.
Right, because Shopify handles the mechanical, heavy lifting half of search engine optimization automatically. Like sitemaps are auto-generated and submitted, the HTTPS certificate is running, the Cloudflare CDN is keeping performance fast, which Google obviously loves.
But the human half of SEO is still entirely your job. You have to write unique keyword-aware title tags and meta descriptions. And you have to fill in descriptive alt text on all your images.
Let's explain why that alt text matters, actually, because people skip it all the time.
They do, and it really hurts them. Search engine bots crawling your site cannot see a photograph of a red sweater. They only read text. If you don't provide text describing the image, Google doesn't know what it is, and you won't appear in image search results. The checklist forces you to ensure those defaults are replaced with real strategy.
And the final step before launch.
The test order. You absolutely have to place a real order yourself, end to end, using a real credit card.
Just to see if it works.
Yes. Check the confirmation email, check the admin dashboard, ensure the shipping calculates right, and fix anything that snags. Only when that is perfect do you remove the password page and go live to the world.
So what does this all mean? We've outlined a platform that handles the global infrastructure, optimizes the checkout to boost sales by 50%, costs as little as $357 for the first year, and can genuinely be launched in a structured 5-day sprint. If this is so incredibly streamlined and affordable, why doesn't literally every single website on the internet use it? What are the blind spots here?
This raises an important question because absolutely no tool is perfect for every single job.
Yeah.
Impartially speaking, the source material explicitly outlines 3 specific scenarios where Shopify is simply the wrong foundation.
Okay, give me the first one.
First, content-first sites. If you are building a massive editorial blog, a media publication, or a heavy community forum, and you just want a tiny shop attached to sell a few mugs, this is the wrong architecture. You are much better off using a dedicated content management system for the articles and just embedding a lightweight buy button.
Right, don't build a massive commercial shopping mall just to house a tiny library. What's the second scenario where this breaks?
Multi-vendor marketplaces or applications needing heavy, bespoke workflow logic. If you are trying to build the next Etsy with thousands of independent sellers, or you need complex hotel booking systems with custom calendar logic, an out-of-the-box e-commerce platform will fight you every step of the way. It's simply not built for native many-seller logic.
Makes total sense. And the third blind spot?
Sites where the developer demands total, unrestricted back-end server control. If you already live in the WordPress ecosystem and you want absolute granular control over every single file and database query on your server, a hosted platform won't give you that access.
Because it's locked down.
Exactly. It is a walled garden by design. They lock down the back end to ensure the exact security and speed we talked about earlier.
Okay, so there are clear, logical boundaries. But what about the ceiling? Say I start with that 357 DIY build on day one. If my business absolutely explodes next year, am I going to have to rip everything down, hire an agency, and start over on a totally new platform? Like, can you outgrow it?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of scale, the definitive answer is no, you won't outgrow it. To prove the scalability, the guide lists some massive, globally recognized brands running on this exact same underlying platform. We are talking about Gymshark scaling instantly when millions of people try to buy workout gear simultaneously on Black Friday.
Wow.
Or Allbirds launching their iconic Wool Runner. Or Club Rug powering their official European football club shop.
And the guide also mentions Drake's brand, OVO, right?
Yes. Drake's brand has run its store on Shopify since 2012. Think about the traffic spikes when a global superstar drops limited edition merch that sells out in 3 minutes.
That would break almost anything else.
That kind of traffic would instantly melt a traditional dirt lot server.
Wow. So Drake's global merchandise empire and a solo builder sitting on a laptop right now, they're on the same exact infrastructure under the hood.
Exactly. The same platform that launches a 357 DIY store seamlessly runs 9-figure global brands. The ceiling is essentially limitless.
So synthesizing all of this,
Yeah.
what we're really looking at today is the complete removal of technical excuses.
Yeah.
Sitemaps, HTTPS certificates, server scaling during traffic spikes, PCI payment security, it's all handled for you.
It really is.
The technical barrier to entry has been totally demolished, which means your success, your SEO rankings, your actual bottom line sales purely come down to having a product that is actually worth buying and writing words that actually compel people to buy it. You can't blame the server crashing anymore.
No, you can't. It places the responsibility entirely on the merchant's vision, their marketing, and their execution. The platform provides the ultimate frictionless stage, but it won't invent consumer demand for you.
Which brings us back to where we started. We talked about how building a site used to be like buying an empty dirt lot, pouring the concrete and laying the plumbing. Now, you just rent the fully functioning mall storefront for less than $400 a year. But I want to leave you with a thought that builds on everything we've uncovered today.
Let's hear it.
If a platform removes every single technical barrier to entry, literally allowing anyone, anywhere, to launch a secure, beautiful global storefront in just 5 days, does that actually make business harder?
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
Right, because when anyone can build a flawless, high-converting store effortlessly, the baseline for competition just skyrockets. You don't get points just for having a working checkout or a fast loading page anymore. Those are just table stakes now.
Absolutely.
The only true differentiator left in a completely frictionless world is the sheer, undeniable quality of your product and the authentic human connection you manage to build with your customer. So, as you look at your own ideas, the question isn't how will you build the store? The question is, how will you stand out when everyone else has the exact same pristine storefront? Something to mull over. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.